The transport ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere, carrying representatives from 47 species to what the Galactic Council called the Proving Ground. Commander Zixthar of the Vecron Empire adjusted his ceremonial crest, confident that his people would dominate this primitive survival challenge. After all, the Vecrons had conquered 12 star systems through superior technology and tactical brilliance. Beside him, a human named Marcus Chen checked his bootlaces for the third time. The other species regarded the humans with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. Earth had only recently been contacted, and their civilization was considered laughably young by galactic standards. Most species in the competition had achieved faster than light travel thousands of years before humans had even discovered fire. Well, that was what the aliens thought anyway. "Attention, contestants," announced the AI moderator, its voice echoing through the ship. "You will be deposited on the surface of Cathera 7, a Class M world with no sentient life. All technological devices, implants, and enhancements will be disabled upon landing. You must survive for 10 planetary rotations using only what you can gather or create from the environment. The species that demonstrates the greatest adaptability will earn a seat on the Council of Advancement." Zixthar sneered at the human. "Your species will not last 2 rotations without your machines, Pinkskin." Marcus smiled politely. "We'll see." The landing was rough. 47 pods scattered across a vast temperate forest, each containing a single contestant. When Marcus emerged from his pod, he immediately began assessing his surroundings with the practiced eye of someone whose ancestors had done this exact thing for hundreds of thousands of years. Trees. Good. Birch bark for tinder, pine for resin. A stream babbled nearby, flowing away from the mountains, which meant it was probably safe to drink if he boiled it. The sun was setting and the temperature would drop. He had maybe an hour of good light left. Marcus didn't waste time mourning his disabled communicator or plasma torch. Instead, he gathered dry grass and bark, arranging it in a small pile. He found 2 pieces of flint near the stream and struck them together over the tinder. 3 strikes. 5 strikes. On the 8th strike, a spark caught. He gently blew on it, feeding it smaller twigs, then larger branches. Within 15 minutes of landing, Marcus had fire. The warmth felt primal and satisfying. While other contestants were still examining their disabled equipment with growing panic, Marcus was sharpening a straight branch against a rock, creating a spear. His hands moved with automatic efficiency, knowledge passed down through countless generations. Find the right stone, strike it at the correct angle, create a blade, lash it to a handle with plant fibers. By the time darkness fell completely, Marcus had a shelter constructed from fallen branches and pine boughs, a fire burning steadily, a spear, 3 sharpened stakes arranged as a defensive perimeter, and water boiling in a depression he'd carved into a flat rock. Across the forest, Zixthar was having a very different experience. The Vecron had evolved on a world where survival technology was provided by their government from the moment of hatching. Without his neural implants, he couldn't even remember the last time he'd processed raw food. He sat shivering in the darkness, his scaled hands bleeding from his clumsy attempts to break branches, wondering desperately when the rescue teams would arrive. They wouldn't, of course. That was the point. By the 3rd rotation, the galactic observers monitoring from orbit were buzzing with confusion. The human had not only survived but thrived. He'd trapped small game, created a bow and arrows, expanded his shelter, and even fashioned a crude pot from clay he'd found by the riverbank. He'd made fish hooks from bone, a knife from napped flint, and had several hides tanning in the sun. The Crystalline Collective's representative had managed to create a rudimentary shelter using their species' natural ability to manipulate silicon structures. The Aquarian delegate had found a pond and was doing reasonably well. But most of the contestants were struggling desperately, their bodies and minds unprepared for life without technological support. Zixthar had finally managed to create something resembling a fire on the 4th day, but only after watching Marcus from a distance and attempting to copy his technique. It had taken him 6 hours to achieve what the human had done in 15 minutes. On the 7th rotation, several contestants had been extracted for medical emergencies, dehydration, hypothermia. One delegate from a species that had never known anything but climate-controlled habitats had gone into shock. Marcus, meanwhile, had just finished constructing a smoking rack for fish preservation and was considering whether he had time to build a better water collection system. Before the challenge ended, the other species began to understand something that humans had known instinctively. Technology wasn't what made you advanced. Technology was just the tool you created after you'd already mastered the fundamental art of survival. On the final rotation, the Galactic Council representatives gathered to review the results. The footage showed Marcus teaching 3 other contestants, including a humbled Zixthar, how to start fires and purify water. The human could have dominated alone, but instead, he'd chosen to ensure others survived. "This is unprecedented," muttered the lead counselor, a being of pure energy that had forgotten what it meant to have physical needs. The human had fire within minutes, tools within an hour. By the second rotation, he'd recreated what took most of our species millennia to develop. "Perhaps," suggested another counselor, "we have been measuring advancement incorrectly. We asked what happens when you remove technology. For most species, the answer was helplessness. But humans evolved through the technology. They didn't just use fire. They became the species that makes fire, the ones who see a rock and imagine a knife, a branch and imagine a spear." When Marcus was retrieved from the planet's surface, he was greeted not with dismissal, but with something the young species had never received from the galactic community: respect. "How did your species learn to do this so quickly?" asked Zixthar, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier arrogance. Marcus shrugged, slinging his handmade pack over his shoulder. "We didn't learn it quickly. We learned it slowly over millions of years. We just never forgot. Every human child learns that fire is hot, that rocks can be sharp, that you can make tools from what's around you. We built our civilization on top of these skills. We didn't replace them." He paused at the transport ship's entrance, looking back at the planet where his ancestors' knowledge had proven its worth among the stars. "You asked what makes humans special? We're the species that turned survival itself into technology, and we carried it with us to the stars. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to grant Earth its seat, not because humans had the best technology, but because they understood something fundamental that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Before you could reach for the stars, you first had to master the ground beneath your feet. And humanity had never stopped being very, very good at that.